All right, so let's say you mess around and you get a DUI. And one of your biggest concerns at this point is what will happen to your license? Are you going to be able to take your kids to school or daycare? What about going to work? How are you going to support a family if you cannot even go to and from work by driving? Or maybe you can't even eat, right? If you cannot go to a grocery store to pick up simple groceries to feed your family, how are you going to survive without a license? If there's anything that people really truly worry about when it comes to DUI charges is, will my license be suspended? So I am criminal defense attorney Hannah Akintoye, and when it comes to DUIs and DUI charges, the number one worry is whether or not you're going to go to jail. That's the biggest worry that everybody has. But the second biggest worry and concern is the status of your license. What happens to your license while your DUI is pending or at the end of the case. So I'm going to tell you exactly what to be aware of when it comes to license suspensions and DUIs. So the first thing that you need to know is that your license can be suspended while a DUI charge is pending. That means you haven't been found guilty of anything and the Department of Motor Vehicles can suspend your license. I actually hate this law or rule, and this varies from state to state and jurisdiction to jurisdiction, as I typically mention. But depending on the laws in your state, the DMV may have the ability to suspend your license simply because you were charged with a DUI, not necessarily that you were convicted or found guilty. And so one of the things that I urge people to do the moment that you get a DUI charge is to reach out to an attorney. And even if you don't hire them, at least have a meeting or a consultation or an initial conversation with an attorney to understand what your rights are and to understand what you need to do to take action immediately. So for instance, in DC, where I practice, the DMV will suspend your license while the case is pending, but you can request a hearing with the DMV to contest your license suspension. A lot of people don't know this because they don't read the paperwork. And that's why it's important to talk to an attorney about these rights. So if you are a person who doesn't really read paperwork and you're not really sure what's going on, definitely communicate with an attorney to see what you need to do in order to take action immediately to preserve all the rights that are available to you. And I've mentioned this in a previous video. Unfortunately, driving privileges are not a constitutional right. So unfortunately, if there are driving related offenses that you commit or that you're alleged to have committed, the local DMV can unfortunately take away your license or at least suspend or revoke it. Now, the second thing that you need to know about DUIs, and this is the one that everybody knows, is that if you are found guilty of a DUI, it's most likely that your license is going to be suspended. There really isn't any easy way to say it. So whatever you do, if you plead guilty or you're found guilty of a DUI, you want to know what the laws are in your state about DUI suspensions, how long your license will be suspended or revoked, and then what you're going to have to do to get your license back. So that brings me to my third point, and that is, if your license is suspended or revoked, you will likely have to pay some type of reinstatement fee to get your license back. Now, every state, of course, has their own fee, but there are sometimes hoops that you're going to have to jump through. Some states require that you take some DUI classes in order to get your license back. Most of the time, if you plead guilty to a DUI, those DUI classes will be a part of your probation or a part of your supervision, if you're placed on any type of supervision. So let's say you violate your probation and you never do the classes. You'll have a separate issue or penalty with the courts on that, but the DMV may not give you your license back because you didn't complete those classes. Again, this varies widely between different states and jurisdictions. Now, the fourth thing that you need to know about DUI suspensions is the fact that you may qualify for an occupational limited license. Now, every state calls it something different, but essentially it's a limited license that allows you to travel only to and from work, and that's it. And that's usually if your license is suspended for certain purposes. this. But the basis for why your license is suspended matters. So in some states, you may be able to get this occupational limited license if you have a DUI conviction. In other states, you may not. Maybe you can get an occupational limited license if your license is suspended due to not paying traffic tickets. So the basis for why they are suspending your license is usually going to be important for your ability to get a limited license to drive to and from work. So it's important that you know what the DMV requires in your state about your ability to have a limited license to drive to and from work. And finally, the fifth thing that you need to know about license suspensions and DUIs is if you get a diversionary program, you may be able to completely avoid a license suspension. So what does that mean? Most of the time, if you have a first-time DUI, most states will offer you some type of program where if you complete some classes and or also complete some community service, your case can essentially be dismissed and the DUI charge goes away. Now, this is probably another subject for another day, but if you pick up another DUI, you're likely not going to get that same type of program or diversionary offer. So that's really something important for you to know. But nonetheless, if you complete and successfully complete these types of programs, oftentimes the case will be dismissed. Now, there are some programs where you will be required to initially plead guilty and then be on some type of probation, and then you come back to court and the case is dismissed. Those are ones where you also want to make sure what will happen to your license if you plead guilty, although the case and the DUI charge will be dismissed, because some states may consider that that initial guilty plea to be a conviction, even though it's really a temporary conviction, and then they may suspend your license. Other states don't consider it to be an event that will trigger a license suspension because the case essentially ended up being dismissed. So all of these things you want to either find out through your local Department of Motor Vehicle Services or with your local DUI attorney to make sure that you know what's going on in your life ultimately if you pick up a DUI charge, because having a criminal charge is one thing, but not being able to work or go to school or importantly support your family or yourself is another thing. And those are the things that you really want to make sure will not be affected if you pick up a DUI. So I hope that information is helpful to you. If you have any questions, always feel free to either comment below or message me here or on my website, mydclaw.com, and I'm always happy to chat with you further. As always, take care and stay safe.